Hello, today I'm going to talk more in our about leadership. Of course, we've been pounding on leadership, touching on some things with leadership. I really think we've gone a long way so far, but now we're going to do a comparison: management versus leadership. I think there's some lines that are drawn that kind of, if you had two circles, they would kind of cross over a little bit. But what are you looking for? But let's just focus on what management is. When I'm hiring people to be a manager, I'm definitely looking for a certain skill set. I'm looking for a person who's very organizational, very task oriented, understands the role for the company, what's needed for the company, and keeps people on task to make sure these duties are done. When you're a manager, you have the authority to tell people what to do, and they need to do it. And so people will tend to do it because their boss said so. That's a different feeling than leadership, right? But those are some simple things. I'm not sure how well this is picking up on the camera, but I have management. One key word is push. Push means that you get to push versus leadership is pull. Totally different. You see the difference? On the leadership side, you're pulling people in. Your people will follow you. They like what you have to say. They like your inspiration. They like your motivation. They like all those things. You don't have the power. You don't need the power to be a manager on that side because you are the authority. But leadership has nothing to do with a title. That's why we say leadership is not a title, is that you can pull people in just by your presence, just by your aura, just by the way you do things personally, just by the way you are the example. And people want to be around you. So leadership is more behavioral and management is more skills. Does that make sense to you? Now think about that. So we're talking about pushing versus pulling. We're talking about a skill set versus a behavioral. That's a big difference in what happens with leaders. And that, I asked you a question, is that if you met you, would you follow you? Why? You might be able to say 5 years ago I wouldn't, but today I would. Here's why. But now you're starting to understand some things. Managers get to tell people, see, and leaders do more asking. What's going on with you? How would you like to be part of this? Here's what we're going to do. With leadership, it's always a big picture agenda of here's where we're going. It's going to be exciting when we get there. Here's the kind of people we're looking for. And then you're attracted to that person or that task, and you want to be part of that. Or management, here's what we have to do by this time, by this day. I need you to do it. And you're told. See, there's a pendulum inside, goes back and forth. In management, there's definitely accountability. There's no doubt that you have a timeline or a certain day, something has to be done. By the end of the day, something has to be delivered. That's accountability. And on the leadership side, it's more, that people aren't focused on numbers. They're focused on behavior. That's a key. So the qualities of leadership are definitely some qualities that people in management have. And there's definitely qualities in management that some people have that truly have leadership ability. When you have somebody who does both, there's a big difference, right? And that's where I focus on IQ. When you're in management, you have a high IQ for the job. You may have done that particular job for 10 or 15 years. You know the job inside and out. When you have a high leadership ability, you have what we call EQ. That is an emotional IQ, is that you really can read people. You know what they need today. You know how they're feeling today. You know what would move them forward based upon what's going on with them right now. You're a reader of people, and that makes you different. Some days you can push. Some days you realize you can't. It's not about the task. It's about the person. It's about the relationship. It's the connection. That's what motivation and inspiration is all about. When you have that down, you have great qualities of leadership. Some people can only be a manager, and they don't understand, what emotional intelligence is. They don't read, hey, if the day's not the day to even start this thing, my team's not ready. There's a fine line between that. And managers sometimes don't even understand that because their mind can't think that way. But leaders can read into that. You know what I'm talking about, right? I think most of you have great qualities of leadership. I think all of you do, actually. And the fact is that on the management side, not everybody is a manager. I often say, not as a disrespect, managers are easier to find. Leaders You know, people say you can develop leaders. I'm not so sure. I think there are some innate qualities that make people a leader. And then there's some trained things that leadership can be developed through those qualities. So I hope this helps a little bit as we keep pushing forward to make sure that we're going in the right direction with leadership development. But managers are different than leaders. Sometimes you're a little bit of both. But I want you to constantly lead. Remember, it's not about your title. You know, it's really not even about the end goal for you. Is that what do you exemplify that others want to be around? Man, we had a whole room of those people. We're dangerous. Thank you. Until the next time, this is Chuck. Bye-bye.